started with a smile. Not the nervous kind. Not forced. Just calm. In March 2024, 17-year-old Marcus Bell walked into a rural Indiana police station and said 8 words that would paralyze the small town of Silverside. "I need to confess to something I did." Detectives expected vandalism, maybe a fight. Instead, Marcus leaned forward, locked eyes with the lead investigator, and said, "I killed Leah Carver." The room froze. Leah Carver had vanished 8 years earlier, an unsolved case that haunted Silverside. She was just 12. On a rainy October afternoon in 2016, Leah left school like any other day. She never made it home. Her bike was found on a trail, her backpack missing. The only witness was a neighbor who recalled seeing her talking to an older teen near the woods. But there were no leads, no arrests, and eventually no hope. Until now. Marcus, now 17, was only 9 years old when Leah vanished. His confession made no sense. But then, he revealed details that were never made public. The name of the trail Leah had taken. The location of her buried backpack. The exact words she'd said before she disappeared. Investigators were stunned. Was he telling the truth or feeding off rumors? When they searched the location Marcus gave, they found what had been missing for 8 years. Leah's torn backpack, her bracelet, and a rusted-out metal box. Inside that box were items only Leah's parents could identify. Items she'd had the day she vanished. And something else. A note, written in shaky handwriting. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. M." Marcus was arrested on the spot. But what he revealed during his final interrogation wasn't just a confession. It was a ticking time bomb. Because Leah Carver may not have been his only victim. And he wasn't acting alone. The nation was already in shock. But what investigators uncovered next shattered even the coldest hearts. After 18-year-old Thomas Hayes sat calmly across from detectives and confessed with a smile to the murder of 16-year-old Emily Carter, everyone assumed the case was closed. His detailed account, the eerie calm, the way he spoke about the crime as if it were a distant memory, it was haunting. But the nightmare wasn't over. As forensic teams combed through Thomas's secluded family cabin, where he claimed the murder took place, they found inconsistencies. Blood spatter patterns didn't match his story. The timeline he gave was off by several hours. Surveillance footage showed Emily entering the woods, but Thomas's car didn't arrive until much later. That's when the real horror began to surface. Investigators uncovered a hidden trapdoor beneath the cabin floorboards, leading to a soundproofed room. Inside, restraints, a camcorder, and chilling journal entries. This wasn't a moment of rage. It was methodical, planned, controlled. And Emily wasn't his first victim. They discovered tapes, each labeled with initials, each capturing unspeakable torment. Some of the girls had never even been reported missing, runaways forgotten by the system, but not by Thomas. As the evidence stacked up, one terrifying question emerged. Was this the work of a lone teenager, or something darker? Thomas's demeanor never changed. Even when confronted with the footage, even when he saw the horror on his parents' faces, he smiled. Psychiatrists were brought in. Some labeled him a textbook sociopath. Others believed he was a victim of years of hidden abuse. But no explanation could make sense of the coldness in his eyes or the pride in his confession. In court, families of the victims wept as the tapes were entered into evidence. Thomas didn't flinch. He simply stared ahead, expressionless. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Yet the scars he left behind are far deeper than any sentence. Community shattered, families haunted, a nation forced to ask, how does someone so young become so monstrous? And perhaps even more chilling, could someone like him still be out there, undetected? The courtroom had fallen silent. Thomas Hayes was behind bars, sentenced to life. But even in prison, the echoes of his crimes refused to fade. It started when one of the victims, once believed dead, surfaced. Alive, terrified, and ready to speak. Her name was Riley Marks, missing since she was 15. Authorities had assumed she was one of the nameless girls on those tapes. But Riley had survived, hidden. Forgotten. Now 21. She came forward with a trembling voice and a story darker than anyone imagined. She'd escaped Thomas's cabin 2 years before his arrest, but didn't go to the police. Why? Because when she first tried to report him, no one believed her. A runaway with a history of mental illness, she was dismissed as unstable. The officers she spoke to never filed a report. Now, with Thomas convicted, Riley's voice had power. And what she revealed changed everything. She spoke of another man, older, more dangerous. A man Thomas called the Collector. According to Riley, Thomas wasn't acting alone. He was being groomed, controlled. The Collector was real, and he was still out there. Riley described a hidden network, a dark web of traffickers and thrill killers who exchanged information and footage in encrypted forums. Thomas, she said, was just the beginning. The FBI was brought back in. A second investigation was launched, this time deeper, quieter. And then, it happened again. In a small town 2 states away, a teenage girl vanished. Same age, same profile, same eerie circumstances. The only clue left behind was a red ribbon, identical to the one Emily Carter wore the night she died. Coincidence? Or was someone continuing Thomas's legacy? Investigators followed Riley's testimony, tracing online threads and encrypted messages. They found references to a new name, the archivist. Someone who collected stories, real ones, tragic ones, like Thomas's. They believe he's still active, watching, recruiting. Today, Thomas Hayes sits in solitary confinement. No visitors, no communication. But his twisted story continues to unfold beyond prison walls. And the question that haunts everyone is simple. Was Thomas the monster, or just the messenger? If Riley hadn't survived, would the truth have died with her? How many others are still out there, afraid to speak? This isn't just a story of one killer. It's a warning. The archivist wasn't a name on a wanted list. There were no fingerprints, no mugshots, no confirmed sightings. Just whispers, hidden threads, vanishing usernames, and stories, real stories, shared in places most people never knew existed. After Riley Marks came forward, federal agents reopened cases they once considered closed. A pattern began to emerge, quiet, chilling, and nearly impossible to trace. Young girls, similar ages, same circumstances, online contact, sudden disappearances, and no leads. Sometimes a ribbon, sometimes a quote from literature left behind. Always, an eerie silence that followed. But then one FBI analyst made a breakthrough. In a private, encrypted server on the dark web, agents found a forum called the Quiet Room. But someone somewhere is still watching. And maybe still writing. Your story might be next. The screen flickered. It was 2:43 a.m. when Riley's mother received the anonymous email. No subject, just a single link to an unlisted video on a private sharing site. She hesitated. Her hands shook. Then she clicked. What she saw broke her. A grainy night vision recording of a small, dimly lit basement. A boy, barely a teenager, chained to a radiator. Shirtless. Motionless. It was Riley. His mother screamed. The kind of scream that only escapes when a parent is forced to relive the worst nightmare again. She thought the horror had ended. She was wrong. The FBI re-entered the case with full force. Forensic analysts authenticated the video. No signs of manipulation. It was real. The file's metadata led nowhere. Scrubbed clean. But one detail stood out. A voice at the end of the footage. Calm. Male. Whispering a single phrase. Was Riley just one part of a much larger plan? That night, agents scoured the footage, enhancing the background. In one corner, just barely visible, was a whiteboard. On it, a name written in red marker. Liam didn't match any of Riley's known captors. He was new. The archivist wasn't done. Days later, in upstate New York, a social worker reported a strange case. A 9-year-old foster child named Liam had begun drawing disturbing images. Dark rooms, a boy in chains, a red hoodie lying in mud. Images that matched Riley's story. But Liam had no access to media, no contact with outsiders, no prior trauma records. Yet in one drawing he wrote the words, "I remember the cold voice. He said I'm next." Psychologists believe Liam may have been groomed, exposed to subliminal messaging or trauma-based conditioning without direct memory of it. This points to a terrifying reality. He may train them. It explains Riley's partial memory loss, the gaps in his timeline, the emotional detachment, the way he answered questions as if rehearsed. Is the archivist raising successors? Are these victims or recruits? Then came the phone call. From a burner number. No ID. Just a voice message. "Thank you for telling the story. The next chapter begins soon." Authorities traced the call. The SIM card was activated less than 2 miles from Riley's original hometown and then destroyed. No fingerprints. No camera footage. Just one chilling reality. The story isn't over. It's only changing authors. If you're watching this and think it sounds like fiction, think again. Every image, every clue, every scream in the dark has a source. Somewhere out there another child is drawing. Another mother is waiting. Another archivist is watching. And if we're not careful, their story might become yours. Stay alert. Stay questioning. Riley vanished again. No forced entry. No signs of a struggle. His shoes were still by the door. It was as if he stepped outside and never came back. Security footage, corrupted. Motion sensors, offline. It was almost like someone knew the exact window to strike and made sure there'd be no trace. The only clue, a single red thread taped to his mother's front door. Pinned to it was a Polaroid. Riley, eyes open, expression blank, standing beside a man whose face was covered by a cracked porcelain mask. On the back, in shaky handwriting, the public was divided. Some believed Riley had been brainwashed. Others believed he had chosen to leave. But his mother? She never stopped believing her son was still trapped inside that broken shell. She released a message pleading with him. "Riley, if you can hear this, if you're watching, please come home. We never stopped waiting." But the response she got wasn't what she hoped for. Package arrived at her doorstep. Inside, a red hoodie, mud-stained and torn, and beneath it a USB. When plugged in, a single sentence appeared on the screen. "He's with us now." With no new evidence and the trail cold once more, the case was suspended. But one thing is clear. The archivist didn't just return for Riley. He returned to remind us all that monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they wear masks of normalcy. Sometimes they make you think the pain is over, just before pulling you deeper into the abyss. Forensic analysts continue to debate whether Riley was a victim, an accomplice, or both. Is he still being used? Or has he become the next face behind the porcelain mask? The questions linger, and so does the fear. Because if Riley was truly taken again, what does that say about the reach of this network? And if he left willingly, the truth may never fully come to light. But one thing is certain. The moment you believe you're safe, that's when they move. Because some stories don't end with justice. They end with silence. And if you're still watching, still listening, ask yourself, what would you do if the next knock at your door was from someone who vanished years ago? Would you open it? Or would you run? For more chilling, emotionally gripping true crime stories like this one, subscribe to the Veil of Secrets. Because some mysteries are just waiting to be unlocked.